Two opposing forces tear toward each other high over the Philippine Sea. American pilots tighten their grips. The Japanese check their weapons. This could be the last showdown, the one that decides who wins the Pacific. As the formations collide, the Japanese formation wavers. Its turns come too late. Counterfire is non-existent. Aircraft break apart instead of pressing the attack. This is no longer the force that terrorized the Pacific, but Japanese commanders refuse to concede, and for every aircraft the Americans bring down, they send out two more. The Americans are chewing through their lines, but the Japanese pilots convince themselves that their sacrifice will pay off. It has to. The sun sinks toward the horizon as the day draws to a close. It is June 18th, 1944, and Japanese Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa's window to prove himself is narrowing. 2 years earlier, Japan suffered some of its worst losses in the war at the battles of the Coral Sea and Midway. In just a matter of weeks, more than 4,000 lives were lost, succumbing to America's fire alongside more than 300 aircraft, 5 carriers, and about a dozen more destroyers, cruisers, and warships damaged so badly that even now the Empire has not yet fully recovered. The only hope the commander has left is to gather the remaining forces of their fleet and deliver a decisive blow. One meant to drive the United States out of the Pacific once and for all. Ozawa and the Japanese High Command believe they are closer than ever to achieving that goal through a desperate gamble known as the Z, or AGO, plan. A smaller strike force will be used as bait, drawing the Americans into open waters as they advance toward the Central Pacific in their quest to liberate the Mariana Islands. Once the US forces commit, Japan plans to unleash nearly everything it has left. More than 50 warships, 24 submarines, and roughly 700 aircraft split between carriers and land-based groups. But as bombs rain down on Saipan and American troops pour ashore across the beaches of the Marianas, Ozawa remains unable to spring the trap. He knows the American fleet is somewhere close ahead of him, but instead of charging forward, the United States is more focused on securing its amphibious landings first. Ozawa faces a decision. Task Force 58, commanded by Vice Admiral Mark Mitcher, is among the most powerful naval formations ever assembled. More than 100 ships spread across 700 square miles of ocean, carrying nearly 900 aircraft. Among them is the new Grumman F-6F Hellcat, a fighter capable of making the once feared Japanese Zero look like a toy. Armed with 6.5 caliber machine guns, these fighters can shred an enemy with a single pass and flee the scene before the Japanese have the chance to retaliate. But even if by pure luck they manage to land a hit on the Hellcat, it will simply shake it off and keep on going, protected by heavy armor that not even direct strikes can easily crack. Yet Ozawa also knows that strength does not lie in numbers alone. His advantage is range. Japanese aircraft can strike from farther away, using land-based airfields to extend their reach, allowing them to attack without exposing their surface fleet to immediate danger. It is a dangerous game, but the war now demands courage, and Ozawa is nothing if not a brave man. By the time the sun rises again, the attack on the American fleet will begin. With his main force positioned east of the Philippines, Ozawa gives the all-clear. The first aircraft lift off from carrier decks and turn east, pushing forward until they can make contact with the Americans near Saipan. But before the attackers can reach their targets, radar screens aboard Admiral Mark Mitcher's ships begin to light up. Contacts multiply rapidly. sailors track roughly 69 aircraft approaching in a single mass of fighters, dive bombers, and torpedo planes. If they reach Task Force 58 before the Americans can organize a defense, the entire Central Pacific operation could be at risk. But Ozawa is no longer commanding the battle-hardened airmen who once dominated the Pacific skies. Years of attrition have stripped Japan of its most experienced pilots. Now, leading the charge are young replacements with limited training and almost no combat experience. And soon enough, that inexperience shows. As the Japanese climb to 20,000 feet, instead of pressing forward, they hesitate. Pilots circle and regroup, hovering in place as they struggle to organize the attack. By the time they finally turn toward the American fleet, it is already too late. Nearly 200 American F-6F Hellcats dive into the formation as the two forces merge. Unlike their opponents, they know what to do. They chase the Japanese as they break apart, sending them scattering in every direction, dropping their bombs early and attempting to pull back to base. Occasionally, a Japanese pilot manages to get off a lucky shot. Some are even able to break through the barrage and reach the American naval formation ahead. But even those who manage to land a strike against a battleship fail to secure a definitive win. The Americans just keep carving through the formation with ease, sliding in behind their targets, firing short bursts from .5 caliber machine guns, and watching aircraft erupt into flames before rolling onto the next victim. The battle is so uneven that within minutes, American pilots are going from never having scored a kill to turning into aces. It hasn't even been half an hour since the battle started, yet the Japanese aircraft are already turning back toward their carriers. 42 of them are lost. This is turning into one of the most humiliating air defeats Japan has suffered in the Pacific. Almost as soon as the survivors of the first raid return, Ozawa orders another wave into the air. This time, the Americans face a heavier punch. 128 Japanese aircraft. But before this new wave can even reach the US forces, their engines shudder and scream in protest. The crude, poorly refined oil forced into the aircraft by Japan's fuel shortages is taking its toll. 8 aircraft have no choice but to turn back. Those who manage to continue have it no better. Below them, Japanese sailors struggle to tell friend from foe. Seeing large formations overhead, more than one crew mistakes the aircraft for American attackers closing in on their ships. Without warning, they open fire. 2 Japanese planes fall instantly. 8 more are damaged so badly that pressing on is impossible. The real battle has not even begun, and already Ozawa's second wave is sporting a black eye. The Americans rise to meet the second wave the moment the silhouettes appear on the horizon. Many of the defenders have barely had time to rest since the first engagement, but against these attackers, rest is unnecessary. Dozens of Hellcats hover above the incoming formation, then roll over and dive, sliding effortlessly into position behind the Japanese aircraft, guns primed. There are so many targets that American pilots are not sure they can get them all. Still, they are eager to try. Locked onto their opponents' tails, the Hellcats cut through the formation one by one. Most Japanese pilots never get the chance to maneuver, never fire a meaningful shot, nor mount a defense. Ironically, many American pilots are more concerned about the anti-aircraft fire coming from their own ships than the enemy sent to destroy them. 30 minutes is all it takes before the sky falls silent once again. Ozawa anxiously waits by the radio station, but as reports pour in, the situation is not looking good. Out of the 128 men he sent to punish the Americans, 97 are already gone. As the shattered remnants of the second wave scatter, a Hellcat flown by Lieutenant Stanley Vrashew races back toward USS Lexington, his ammunition nearly gone. He swerves hard to avoid incoming fire from below, shouting over the radio that he is American until the deck crews finally clear him to land. He has nearly been taken out by fire from his own ship, but the moment his wheels touch the deck, he can't help but smile. Vratsiu looks up toward Admiral Mitcher and holds up 6 fingers, the number of enemy aircraft he has just destroyed. As pilots continue to return, one turns to another and shouts over the noise, "Why, hell, it was just like an old-time turkey shoot down home." The situation is rapidly turning against Japan, but Ozawa is not prepared to let the morning end without at least one victory to report back to command. Rather than suspending the failed assaults, the Admiral orders 2 more raids into the air. And twice more, he runs into the painful limitations of Japan's 1944 war machine. The third wave, composed of 47 aircraft, begins to crack almost immediately. Nearly half the force is out of their raid before ever reaching the American fleet, pilots unable to maintain formation or even locate their targets. Those who do arrive barely manage to leave a scratch on the American ships before the counterattack tears into them, costing Japan 7 more losses. The fourth wave, larger still at 82 planes, fares no better. Once again, pilots lose their way. Instead of finding a decisive opening, they fly straight into Hellcat patrols. And as Japanese aircraft are shredded in the sky, another threat closes in. Beneath the surface, American submarines refuse to loosen their grip. With Japanese attention fixed overhead, few notice the silent shapes slipping into position below, tubes opening, torpedoes racing forward. The first victim is the fleet carrier Taiho. Her crew fights to save her after the initial hit, but the damage is already fatal. Poorly refined fuel vapors spread through the ship, and before long, catastrophic explosions rip her apart. She sinks with over 1,500 men and dozens of aircraft still aboard. Then comes Shokaku. 4 torpedoes strike home, igniting fires that race out of control. She vanishes beneath the waves in a tower of fire, taking her air group and much of her crew with her. By now, Ozawa's only option is to count his losses and accept defeat. But by now, America is enjoying the taste of victory and is not willing to give it up so easily. It is now June 20th, and with the island of Saipan secured enough to hold, US commanders feel more confident about going after what remains of Ozawa's force. By now, however, the Japanese fleet has pulled farther east, opening a gap of roughly 275 miles from the nearest American carriers. At that distance, any strike risks disaster. US aircraft could easily run out of fuel before making it home. But the opportunity is too tempting to ignore. Ozawa's fleet is battered, exposed, and vulnerable. If there is ever a moment to strike at the heart of Japan's remaining naval power, it is now. Even as the sun begins to sink, American aircraft lift off from carrier decks and turn west. Many pilots know they may not return, but if the attack succeeds, it could push the United States one step closer to winning the Pacific. By the time the strike force finally sights Ozawa's ships ahead, fuel is already running low. There is no time for careful coordination or textbook attack runs. Pilots dive in fast, releasing bombs, firing machine guns, and pulling away as hard as they can before Japanese anti-aircraft fire closes in. Most drop their ordnance without even knowing whether they have scored a hit. There is no time to look back. But as aircraft bank away and turn for home, gunners catch brief glimpses of ships below, burning, trailing smoke, and slowly listing. By the end of the raid, 65 more Japanese aircraft had been destroyed, along with yet another carrier. The battle is over, and it has become one of Japan's most devastating defeats in the war. In just 2 days, Ozawa has lost somewhere between 500 and 600 aircraft, along with multiple carriers, major warships, and thousands of trained men. The Japanese commander knows this is the kind of loss a nation never truly recovers from, and for that, he submits his resignation. However, the High Command immediately rejects it. Japan is on the verge of collapse, and it cannot afford to lose a single man, not even the one that just cost the empire nearly 3,000 lives.